grab your girls, grab your beers.
Hey everybody, this is Charlie from Anthrax, and you are listening to today's Boondoggle.
This is Mark Metcalf, and you are listening to today's Boondoggle with Bailey on Domain Cleveland Radio.
You are listening to today's Boondoggle with Bailey on Domain Cleveland Radio. Yes, Kato Kalin listens to this all the time.
Welcome to today's Boondoggle. Now here's your host.
I am Monty Heath, so one Heath, and you are listening to today's Boondoggle.
Hey, what's up? It's John from Skillet, and you are listening to today's Boondoggle on Domain Cleveland Radio.
Fasten your seatbelts.
What's going on, everybody? It's Bill Bailey with today's Boondoggle. And real quick housekeeping note, if you're watching us on YouTube or Rumble or BitChute or Odyssey, please hit that follow and subscribe button. And if you're listening to us on Spotify, iTunes, Google, Spreaker, any of the podcast platforms out there, please hit that follow and subscribe button. Help us build our numbers up and help us continue to bring you conversations like the ones I'm about to bring you right now with Mr. Christian Opus Lawrence of the band Dead by
Porn.
Wednesday.
You got to smash the subscribe button. You porn, all that stuff.
Yeah. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, I've actually been following along with a lot of stuff you got going on. We got some mutual friends and connections, so I've been wanting to get you on. So
who's some of the mutual friends? Who's some of the mutual friends? I'm curious.
Well, I'll get into that as we go here.
Oh, okay. I apologize. I'm jumping the gun here.
It's all right, no problem, man. Usually when I have somebody on for the first time, though, I like to get a quick background. So
sure.
Originally, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Originally, what I wanted to be was exactly what I am, a drummer in a rock and roll band.
Nice. And like, when was it that it kind of caught your attention and, that dragged you in and you knew this was what you wanted to do?
I saw Kiss for the first time. And then my older brother started bringing albums home, and I started hearing him listening to it from the other room, and I started getting into it. And then I would go out and I would set up pots and pans in the front yard right next to the road where the cars would drive by. And as a kid, I would, bang on pots and pans and put on a show for all the cars driving by. And people would beep and wave. And that's kind of my first taste of showmanship when I was really young. And all that stuff's actually, all that information and more is actually in my new book that I just released. But we could talk about that too. I'm probably jumping the gun with that. But that's all the beginning, how I started and when I started and why I started is all outlined in the autobiography that I just released recently, but called Break When I'm Dead, which is really awesome. It's doing really, really well. But I started off from Kiss. I knew right away what I wanted to do when I saw them. I'm sure a lot of people in my age bracket who are musicians that are I call lifers, because people do it a lot for hobbies. They play in cover bands. They play on the weekends. They don't really dedicate themselves to rock and roll. Like Lemmy said, if you want to be a rock star, you got to live it. You can't just do it part time. And I always tell people that, there's a fire that burns inside of me and people like me. And it goes up and down throughout the years. Obviously, there's times when the fire's raging and then there's times when it's low, but it never goes out. If you have a fire that goes out, you're not it's not in your blood. It's either in your blood or it's not. And that's kind of how I look at, music. I mean, anyone nowadays with a laptop and AI and programming and could push a button and create music, but it takes a true musician who, went through the stages and the blood, sweat, tears, and money and all the different time and energy to learn and craft and hone your instrument and really, you know, the frustrations and all that stuff, to really be a working, I call it a blue collar working class pro touring musician, because that's what I am. I'm not rich. I'm not famous. I'm well known. I might be popular in certain circles. My name might be known in out of the country. Some of my bands, you know, did really, really extremely well up and down. It's like a roller coaster ride, you know.
Yeah.
Unless you're like a pop artist that already that's like, you know, 15 years old, that's being sculpted and modeled and created by the industry. People like me who are like, you know, real musicians, it's like a roller coaster ride for us. We have our ups, we have our downs, ups and downs, and we just keep going. And, you know, I'd rather die being respected as a talented real artist who had, you know, real content and credibility than to be a one-hit wonder. I'll listen. I'll take it. I would take it if I got it. And I always say, people are always like, oh, you don't want to, you don't want to be famous. I'm like, no, I never said that. If it comes along, great, but I'm not chasing after that. Like, I used to think that that's chase after that, but you know, then you start molding yourself and trying to like make the industry happy. And I'm not doing it for the industry anymore. Like, the industry can kiss my ass.
Yeah, it steals your passion, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
And you become something that's inauthentic, that you're not, you know? And you're preaching to the choir, man. I've been trying to tell my kids all about, you know, how musicians are supposed to be, you know, owning your craft, putting in the work, you know? And, you know, and then talk about Kiss, man. That was my gateway drug too, man, to the music world, man.
Absolutely. Until I met them, well, at least two of them, and that's in the book too. It's funny because you know why Peter and Ace got thrown out after you meet them, because those are only two that I met, and not the other two. Those two guys were so bitter and so like just mean. I don't know if it was a bad day or what the hell, but it was not a good. It kind of bummed me out because I was so like, Peter Criss was such an idol for me as a drummer. And like, you know, they always say, don't meet your idols. Well, it got ugly. I mean, we almost had a fist fight. It's in the book. Wow. It's so funny. Yeah, it was crazy. I was young too.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah, you know, so Peter Criss, one of your inspirations though, originally, you're out there with the pots and pans. When did it start? Like, at what age was it like, you know, all right, well, it's time to invest in a real kit for you, and you start playing.
Yeah. That's a great part of the story, and it's all in there too. It's I had a bike route, and I was a paper boy, and I was making a little bit of money doing that, not a lot of money. And I found my first drum set. It was an orange sparkly Maxwell. I don't even think they make a very, very small Maxwell orange sparkly drum set that was in pieces on the side of the road at a tag sale in my neighborhood. And my parents didn't want me to play drums. They actually encouraged me to try to play the cello or the piano or anything that didn't make a lot of noise.
Yeah, and that was what's more calming in the household.
and that was more musical, quote unquote. And every day, and I did the cello for a while, and mysteriously the cello would break every week, me dragging it around, and I'd be like, I don't know, Mom, I don't know. The things they don't like me, I guess. It's breaking every week, so I don't think I should do this. You know, I am a drummer at heart, you know, banging around this cello, and it just wasn't me. So I found this drum set at the tag on my own, because they wouldn't buy me one. They didn't want me to play drums. So I found this like real piece of crap drum set on the side of the road. It was like $35 or something like that at the time. And I had like, I want to say 20 or $25. And I had to literally borrow like 10 or $15 from my older brother. I was like, hey, can I borrow some money? And he gave it to me. And I dragged this piece of crap home. I put it together with like duct tape and glue and whatever else I could do. And I just started at like 11 or 12. I just started banging on this drum set. Whenever my mother would leave for like to go to the store or they would be gone, I would just annoy the crap out of my neighborhood, and I would just bang the crap out of this drum set, and had no idea what I was doing. And I sort of just taught myself. I started listening to Shout Out the Devil from Motley Crue, and even Bryan Adams, things like that were really simple, kind of like 1, 2, 3, 4. And I learned the idea, the dexterity of how to do it. I bought a Buddy Rich beginner's guide, and it kind of broke down the mathematics of drumming, because it's a different animal than normal music notes and stuff. It's all based off of numbers and like different hits and different timing and stuff like that. So I learned the basics, and I taught myself, and I just kept at it. It was really frustrating, the grind. And then once I learned how to play the drums myself badly, I finally took lessons to learn the do's and the don'ts, and like how to sit, how to hold the drumstick, the actual like technical things that I needed to learn. Are you there? Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I got a phone. And that's when I learned the base of how to actually play the drums. And then right as I started doing that, I started a 3-piece punk rock band called The Putrid, and we were horrible, but we played our first show.
Putrid, huh?
Yeah, I booked my own first show at age 13. I called up and I was like, "Hey, this is the manager for The Putrid," with this like high voice. My name is Christian Lawrence. We want to play your venue, blah blah blah. And then I showed up, and I was Opus, because that was my nickname. I didn't give it to myself. That's also in the book. It's a long story, but it's a musical term that it started off as an insult, and it became something that actually helped me in my career, because I separated myself. I did, I was Christian Lawrence, the manager booking guy, and then I was Opus, the drummer character that showed up and played the shows. And that's how I did it in the beginning. And that's kind of how I booked my first show at age 13, and then never looked back. Just been doing it ever since.
Nice. And what was now you're up there in Connecticut, so what was the music scene like there when you were starting out?
Well, it was very slow. It wasn't as thriving as it is now. There wasn't a lot of metal. There was some stuff. But it was more old school, like power metal. Like there was a band called Obsession, which features Mike Viscera. There was Join Forces with Jimmy Bell, the guitar player, who I ended up playing with down later on. Much later on, he was the runner-up for Zach Wilde for Ozzy. There was some old school bands, Jeff Canada with Eyes. There was, then Michael, obviously, Michael Bolton came from Connecticut, but he was in a metal band before he was doing what he's doing now.
No shit.
So there wasn't, yeah. Oh yeah. There wasn't much, but then all of a sudden, this era came where there was a ton of metal bands and like different style bands too. We had everything from, obviously there's in New England, not just Connecticut, but New England area. I mean, there's so much that came out of here from like Connecticut, Massachusetts, the whole area. You got Hatebreed, obviously, from Connecticut. There's, my old band Gargantua Soul from the 90s that, we did it phenomenal. We were all over radio, TV, and played Woodstock 99 right before Limp Bizkit. And that's one of the reasons why I still have a career to this day, is because I'm sort of grandfathered in from my old band. Dead by Wednesday does great, but if I didn't have that old band, I wouldn't have the fan base that I have that carried over to what I do now. So, that band did really well. And then there's, there was a ton of other projects that came out of here, like Killswitch Engage, Shadows Fall, All That Remains, Stained, Godsmack, Revly, Mighty Mighty Boss Tones. I mean, the list goes on and on. New England is a very thriving rock and metal and hardcore area, and obviously we have New York too, which is right next door, that has everybody and their grandmother,
And then you had mentioned Hatebreed. Now I know that I thought I read that you've done some work with Jamey Jasta in the past.
Oh
on some
yeah,
projects.
Jamey. Jamey actually put out. He was the first person after my old band Gargantua Soul broke up, and I started Dead by Wednesday. He was the first person to believe in me, and he put out our debut album "Democracy Is Dead" on his label at the time called Stillborn Records.
Stillborn, yeah.
Yeah, and then I started working for him at the warehouse and helping him with basically running his Hateware clothing line for Mayhem Festival, and I met a lot of people through that, and just did a lot of stuff with him as far as that goes, until I was able to start my own label subsidiary through him originally, and now it's moved on from that since then.
Yeah. Well, that's friend number one.
Yep.
That we have in common. I remember
Yep.
Actually when I was deployed on my last deployment, Jamey put together a nice care package for me and the guys I was serving with, and there was a bunch of Hateware gear in there, and there was a bunch of Stillborn CDs in there, and Dead by Wednesday was one of them.
Oh, cool, man.
Yeah, so
That's
I got
awesome.
to share that with me and the guys that I was over in Kuwait with and stuff.
It's ironic that you say that because my singer now is a combat veteran. He was in Afghanistan for many, many years, and a lot of our new material on Capital Conspiracy talks about the struggles and a lot of the things that they went through, and he's still dealing with a lot of his friends have a lot of the PTSD, and unfortunately a couple of them committed suicide, and we have a couple songs on there. Our next video is going to be talking about that as well, and I can't relate because I've always been the spoiled brat at home that never fought for our country. But my singer now, Esteban, who is an amazing person, he was deployed for many front lines for many years. So
yeah, and
thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you, man. So yeah, there's friend number one. And then going along, I just, first of all, speaking of condolences, I wanted to, say, we recently lost, I think, somebody that was an inspiration for you guys, the original Wednesday Addams.
Oh, yeah. I mean, man, that I got to be honest with you. Like, I did not expect that to be as successful as it was for us. I mean, it wasn't really originally about that. The term "Dead by Wednesday" actually came from a touring term, because it was like a weird thing where with my old band Gargantua Soul, we were in Salem, Massachusetts playing a show, and then we had to take a red-eye flight to Puerto Rico to do a festival in San Juan. And then we were flying back to do something else. And my bass player turned to, and at the time, I was already started this side project, and I needed a name. And he turned to me, and he said to me, "Man, if we keep going like this, we're going to be dead by Wednesday." And for some reason, it just resonated with me. I'm like, "Wow, that's a really cool sentence." It's like like a touring expression. By the middle of the week, when you're touring, you're dead by Wednesday. And then our last singer was like, "Hey man, we need to make a design that's going to actually sell." And he thought, Wednesday Addams, she's a very very disturbed kind of individual. Yeah. And Dead by Wednesday, killed by Wednesday Addams, and it was like perfect. And they designed, we had a buddy of ours who designed the picture for the shirt. And that's literally before even the show hit, and now is on Netflix and is #1. That was our biggest seller. That shirt sold women and guys love that shirt, and now it's selling even more. So it definitely became an inspiration to us as far as after the fact. But initially, it wasn't actually about that. So it's kind of funny.
Yeah, and then I was reading, you were talking about some of the other projects you've been involved in. And I know I'd read something like everybody, of course, when the world stopped, back in 2020, and we were all kind of not knowing what the hell was next. But a lot of the musicians that I've talked to, their personal like therapy for their mental health was staying active and recording and creating music. But you did the Corona covers, I think, during that time frame. You want to talk a little bit about that and why you what that was for you?
Absolutely. Well, obviously we were stuck home and we couldn't really do much. And my girl, I was depressed. That was supposed to be the biggest year of my career, besides back in the day when I did Woodstock and did a bunch of other stuff. It's really, I think, my girl kind of said to me, listen, you look like you're down and out. Like, everyone's doing these online things. You got to kick yourself in the butt and learn how to record and figure out video and just do it and do something. And I didn't know what I was doing. So I kind of I play guitar as well as drums, and acoustically I sing a bit. I do backups for the band. And I just said, you know what, I'm going to try. I don't know what to do, but I'm going to take ideas of songs that I like, and I'm going to record them with GarageBand and just do it all myself and just indulge myself into music while I have all this time. And it was the best thing I ever did, because it made me sane. I was able to go in my band room, lock myself in there, and just experiment and learn how to use the equipment. And I taught myself how to record, and it sounds great. It sounds amazing. And it was easy because it was acoustic, because electric stuff is very hard to record compared to acoustic stuff. But I was able to just do it, and I did one, and the formula came out great. And then I learned iMovie, and I put the iMovie app on my computer, and I learned how to edit, and that just got better and better and better. And then I said, you know what, I'm gonna do this song, and then I'm gonna try this song, and then the next thing I know, I had 8 or 9 songs done. I'm like, this is an album, So I didn't know what to do with it, so I put it out on Bandcamp, because at the time I didn't have the label thriving, and covers are so much to license, and it just did. People loved it and picked it up. It did really well, and people picked it up, and I just got some press and everything, and now I'm thinking about actually releasing it for real and going back and kind of taking it and just putting it on, licensing it and putting it on the label eventually. But it was just a learning experience. It was to keep me busy and sane, and it definitely worked. And it was well received. I think my favorite video and song out of all of them probably is "Mother" by Pink Floyd. That was really cool to try to recreate all the different sounds and stuff, and it was just really cool. I love doing that. I know covers, and some people are like, covers are whack or whatever. But for me, I try not to do them exact. I try to do kind of give my own spin and take covers and make them your own, and just find a unique way of showing it, perceiving it, whatever.
Yeah, and at the same time, like you said, it was just something to help keep you sane during that time, and keep you busy. And you got to learn iMovie and some other things to help, going forward. So
and now I have that.
Took a negative and made it into a positive.
Yeah. Now exactly. I've always been that guy where I try to turn any sort of negative situation into a positive if I can. And that's happened. That's sort of happened with me a lot in the past, with different things, because you can either sit in your own crap and wallow and pout and cry and woe is me, or you could pick your pants up and big boy pants and make something happen.
Yeah, exactly. And then so you mentioned a couple times already the book, but what inspired you to put this autobiography together? And then and then also, as I've read, friend number 2 was involved helping you with this book, Doug Esper. He's he's a longtime friend of mine. When I doing local Cleveland concert promotions and stuff here, and
Yeah,
booking
being in that
shows or
area,
whatever
yeah, it
back
makes
in
sense.
the day. Doug was my partner that helped me start Domain Cleveland Entertainment. So I go way back with
Doug is such a great guy. What a great guy. I love that dude. So I met Doug when we Dead by Wednesday did an acoustic tour. We were on the same record label, David Ellefson's label with Tom Hazard and EMP label group. And Doug was playing percussion for Chuck Mosley, the former, the first vocalist of Faith No More. And they had an album out, and we had an album out on the label. And they were doing an acoustic tour, and the label asked, "Hey, would you want to put an acoustic set together?" At the time, I was doing acoustic, like you just mentioned, on my own. And they're like, "Well, what if you put it together with the band, just a couple of you guys, and you go out and open for them and help book the tour and stuff like that?" So I said, "Okay, no problem." We made it happen. It was great. And the best thing that came out of it was I met Doug and our relationship. And then actually it's kind of got revamped when I got to plug my phone in, but what got revamped when our relationship when during the Corona when I was kind of like, again, I started the book, but it was really slow. And then when we were sitting around, during Corona, we're like, well, let's really ramp it up and make it happen. You know what I mean? And that's when we started getting into more conversations, because he's a ghostwriter on the book. Yeah. And so I give him all the credit, because I had the stories and I had all the ideas, but without him, that book wouldn't be as successful as it was, or as interesting and fun to read as it was. I mean, a book could either be really boring or overly intellectual, where you need to you need to take a literature class to understand what the hell you're writing. But he made it sound like my voice. Like he knew he kind of took me and put it into a book form. And I got to give him a lot of credit for that, because without that aspect of it, it would never have done as well as it did. It got to number 30 something on the in the first week it came out on Amazon music biographies. It was top 100 sold, right next to Bruce Dickinson, Dio. It was amazing. I mean, it ended up at number 7. It ended up at number 74, but it got all the way to like 30 something. It was crazy, and I did not expect that. I'm not an author, I'm a drummer. I don't even know if I'll do a second book, honestly. But he had experience on it, being that he put out a couple books already. And he actually helped me find an awesome publisher, Scout Media. This guy, Brian, who wasn't my buddy at the time, now he's my buddy, but he knew Doug, and he put out some other music orientated books from guys from Dog Fashion Disco. And he helped with Doug and Chuck's book. So really a great circle. And Doug was just a great guy. I got to meet him when I was doing that tour, and he was really someone that was very personable when I was touring, and he made it pleasant to be on the road. So that's definitely and we just stuck. We stayed in touch, and that's basically one hand washes the other. I try to network as much as possible with people that I find that to be not just talented but honest and hardworking. And that's definitely someone who I feel is like that, But the reason why I did it, the reason why I did the book, I know that was the first question. What inspired me was a couple things. For 5 years, I played in a band with the former bass player of Megadeth, David Ellefson, who ran the label. At first, I got into his label, and then once he saw that the band was talented, he hired me and my guitar player from Dead by Wednesday to play in his solo band, Ellefson. And we did that for a while. We wrote a couple songs together. We toured a lot. That year that we were that before Corona hit, I was supposed to go and play in Japan with him and Chris Poland, the original guitar player, and Australia. And we were supposed to do all this stuff, and it all got thrown to the wayside because of damn Corona. And but he released 2 books that did really well. And so that sparked an idea in my head. I'm like, well, I could do that. I just need to be able to find someone to help me because I can't write. And David had a ghostwriter. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to try to find a ghostwriter. And then Doug kind of, when I was asking about it online, he reached out to me. And, everyone thinks they have an interesting life. Everyone thinks, oh, I should write a book and blah, blah, blah. But there's things about my family life and my past and stuff like that are more not just interesting, it's crazy, like wild stuff that deserve to be written and talked about. And that's kind of why, when I laid it on the line to these guys, they were like, oh my God, you definitely got to write a book. So that's kind of why I did it. It wasn't because, most autobiographies are very ego based. It's like, oh, me, look what I did, look what I did. That's not what this is about. It's more about stories about people around me. And yes, there is some stuff in there that is, not I want to say ego based, but like, that is like, about my life and like what I've done and stuff like that, accolades and all that stuff. But that's not what the book's about. There's a lot of like weird and crazy stories that you would not expect about my family life, and then also the trials and tribulations of being like I said, a blue collar working class musician. That you have to hustle your ass off just to make a Starbucks income, like without insurance. Just a real hardcore on the street kind of like musician guide almost for people that might want to try it, like, younger generation or whatever. God bless them. So that way they don't make the same mistakes that I made. So there's like some trials and tribulation stuff in there from the music industry. And that's kind of why I wanted to do it too,
Yeah, no, I haven't had a chance to check it out yet, but I was reading about that and seeing how, Doug was your ghostwriter. I was like, all right, I definitely want to talk more about that. Cause when me and Doug were working together, sometimes he'd write show reviews for our website and stuff. And I always be busting his balls like, dude, you ever hit spell check? And to see how far he's come now, with all the books that he's put out, start with, children's books and then, his baseball book. And I'm just really proud of how far he's come along and how driven he's been, chasing after, his dreams.
Well, yeah, I mean, there was still a lot of spelling errors, but thank God I have a great publisher who actually hired a spell checker.
Okay, good. But the book's been pretty successful getting out there.
Yeah.
And then you mentioned the new album, which I wanted to talk more about, Capital Conspiracy. Like, I'm a big guy that kind of, into conspiracies and stuff like that.
Me too.
Kind of like people being in, especially us people that served in the military and work for the government. It's like, well, we've seen a thing or two. So, that's why we always ask so many questions. But what's the meaning behind the Capital Conspiracy name for the album? And what's the message?
If you look at my singer could probably answer this way better than I can because he wrote all the lyrics of the album and actually came up with the title. But it's not capital like the capital of our country. It's more like if you look at the album cover, you see the different aspects of what runs our company, our country. So you have like religion. So you see the Pope sitting at the table with a big pile of money. You see the liquor and the pharmacy drug guys with the big cigar sitting at the table. You'll see all different, and the banker, the guy with the money jacket, all the people that run the banking companies and industry and everything. And so it's more of like of not conspiracy like conspiracy theorists, but more of like what the conspiracy of what runs our government in a sense.
One's conspiring against the people, basically.
Yes, exactly. And
everything
and
you
really,
just mentioned on that album cover and everything too is like I've done episodes with I have people on and we'll talk about that stuff because it's like,
yeah. Oh, you should
it's
have
like
my
if
singer on.
you're willing to look, it's right there in front of us, you know?
Oh yeah, you should definitely have Esteban on eventually too, and talk to him as far as being an ex-military and him being an ex-military and having strong views on that stuff too.
Yeah, I do.
Really awesome
episodes with veterans and stuff too. So I definitely would love to connect with him. We can make
definitely.
that happen.
I'll hook you guys. I'll hook you guys up. But so yeah, it's not just about that. There's other things on the album like humanitarian stuff and some love stuff, like relationship stuff, personal stuff. But mainly there's a lot of stuff about different aspects of how our world and government is being run, and like kind of brings it back to like the old school, back in the day, man, there wasn't celebrities talking about politics online and getting reamed about it. No one really talked about it. They put it in their lyrics, like Metallica, Megadeth, bands like that. They would talk about, politics and different humanitarian stuff, and they would just let people get what they got out of it. And they would just like think for themselves after they read the lyrics. Yeah. And they would be, oh, wow, like a justice for all, stuff like that. They didn't preach and talk about, oh, this is bad, or don't do this, this is wrong, don't wear fur, don't eat meat, don't do this. Yeah. They would put it in their lyrics. And if you wanted to believe what you wanted to believe out of it, you could believe it. And if you don't, you don't, And that's kind of what we're trying to do on this album, is kind of bring it back to that style of like old school.
Yeah, encourage people to do their own homework, encourage people to do their own research.
Look at the album cover.
Look
at the album cover, read the lyrics, look at the album cover, read the lyrics, look at the art, get your own ideas out of it. And maybe they might think your ideas might be different than what we actually mean. It doesn't really matter. And whatever it means to you is what it means, So that's kind of like how we're doing it in a sense. And Capital Conspiracy, it's a very interesting album because it's people like, it's funny because everyone thinks it's like about conspiracy theory stuff, and it's really not. And that's why it's great, because when people actually start listening to it, they're like, oh. And not for nothing, you're talking about how you are, I am. That label came from our government. Conspiracy theorists. That was used. That was made up. Yeah, that was made up. That was made up. Yeah, you know why? Go ahead.
Silence us. Basically, it was a label placed on to get people to oh, they're just a kook. They're crazy. Don't listen to them.
Yeah. Exactly. So people that would actually question authority or have think outside the box and have an actual opinion on things that might not go along with their propaganda or their whatever they're trying to sell or push, they would be labeled as conspiracy theorists, because that term was made to discredit people that might actually have something valid to talk about. And that's kind of a funny thing, when you think about it.
Yeah, well, it's funny because I had a friend on the other day too, and we were talking about how how they hijack certain words and take it away from its original meaning. Like, look at how they're using the word woke now as like a bad thing, but it's like it's basically conspiracy theorists, people that have been paying attention and like, hey man, something doesn't seem right with this,
Yeah,
play this story out.
A lot of things don't seem right, and maybe there's more to it than we know.
Yeah,
and maybe there's not, but for a fact that no matter what is going on, the people that are in charge, that have money, that have the power, that want to stay in power and keep the power, their best interest is not us. They're not looking out for us.
No,
not at all. You can make it, whether people want to believe that or not is another thing. But the fact of the matter is like, the worst part about it is the pharmaceutical companies pushing, the pills and pushing the drugs onto people, and creating the opioid crisis. They created that. They created the crack crisis. All that stuff. Like there's no need for that stuff. There was no need, but for some reason it's all, they don't want to find the cure. They want to find just they want to just mask it with, subscribing pills to everybody, getting everyone hooked. And then all of a sudden now they can't get it anymore. So now they're doing street drugs. And so many of my friends and so many friends and family are either in jail or died or just still zombies from that crap. And like, it's all part of the same thing. People are like, oh yeah, you're crazy. But like, think about it. I mean, from the beginning of time, all these things that we have going on, all these, even like the corona, the HIV, the crack, this and that. Where did it come from? It's like population control. I feel like almost.
Oh,
I don't know.
Totally.
I might sound like a kook, but I mean, it's not.
No.
I mean, we're seriously, dude. Like, all these like stories. Oh, he had sex with a monkey, and then the monkey, brought. Dude, come on, a bat brought.
Yeah,
this,
bat.
No, man. Come on.
Yeah, man, I'm with you, and it's just like, and then you're looked at as crazy for questioning the narrative. It's like, because we don't.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
I mean, I see how far, like, and I've gone down the rabbit hole pretty deep, since my time in the military and everything. And it's just one door leads to something else. And you got to use discernment, it's like, I mean, I'm a guy, but
not everything.
I'm a guy that's in recovery. I'm approaching 14 years sober now,
Awesome.
and so I've been in the rooms of AA and recovery, and I've seen the damage that has been released, with the opioid thing, like you're talking about.
Terrible.
And then during COVID, when we couldn't meet, so many guys relapsed and aren't back. They relapsed, and it was one time, and with that fentanyl, and it's over. They're done.
Yeah, well, that's the problem. And now they have that in there. And where'd that come from? It's like, oh yeah. They couldn't just use baby powder anymore to mix it with. They got to use fentanyl. It's like, come on, man.
Wide open border. I mean, we could get into that. Everything,
Yeah.
It's just like, but everything's being done by design, but everybody wants to make it political.
Yeah, no,
it's
no,
like,
that's not.
This is a real
it's
life.
not just political.
Yeah,
no.
I don't care what side of the aisle you're on, man. We're all part of the human aisle. We're supposed to be.
Yeah. Well, that's the problem. See, like, people think that there's like, oh, this side's better than that side. No one realizes that if you actually look at the connection all the way deep down, they're the same animal.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. And they're just using it for control and for division and for keep us distracted from
pick your team.
Distraction. Like this fighting against each other and the race card and the race and the politics. It's all used on purpose, because like while they're doing whatever they're doing, we're arguing about petty crap.
Yeah, exactly. I'm a big I grew up a big professional wrestling fan, but I liken politics to wrestling. It's just like, the good guy comes out or the bad guy comes out and says all this stuff. The good guy comes out and fights them, but they both go back to the same locker room,
Yeah, exactly.
That's like right and left, They both go back to the same area.
They have a beer afterwards. Yeah. And we used to be able to do it. And we used to be able to do that, back in the day,
Yeah, exactly.
But now it's like
social media
it's like,
and everything has made it like so much, like, I guess, easier for people to say that the cruel things that they wouldn't have the guts to really say to your face, or that you wouldn't say to somebody's face because you have more respect for them when you're face to face,
Right. Now it's all about, like hate. It's like, oh, I hate you because you don't believe what I believe. Well, that's dumb. Like, I don't even care. Like I just like you don't like certain things. That's fine. I don't like everything either. I like everything from Grateful Dead to Slayer. I like, certain things that you might not like, and just in all aspects of life, not just politics. I mean, it really makes no difference to me.
I remember during the time, especially when we were all like, stuck at home, things really got wild with some of me and my people that have been lifelong friends. I mean, I say even me and Doug disagreed with a lot of things, maybe, politically or our personal views or whatever. And it's just, but we couldn't meet. So it's like, we're going at it, trying to convince each other online and people. And I'm like, man,
it's not worth it.
When things open back up, man, I'm like, how are things going to be? Am I going to have to throw down with people that I've been lifelong friends, or can we stick to our common, like, you know, what brought us together in the first place? And that's why I was like, when music came back and I was hitting festivals and I'd go out to shows and then I'd see these people again and we were back like nothing happened. Like, okay, music brought us back together. We're here to enjoy the same band, the same artists, you know, I mean, and forget about all that petty shit.
You said you were clean for 14 years. I actually haven't had a drop of alcohol in about 5 years. I had some health issues and I was told that either I quit or I die, and I quit. And I just said, you know what? I don't need it. And it's been the best thing I've ever did. I'm actually healthier now than I ever was, compared even before that I stopped. My doctor's like, you know, you're better than you were before you quit. So that was something that really helped me kind of clear my head. And my drumming has gone up the roof. I started training martial arts, and my wind is great.
Nice.
You know, I haven't been doing anything at all, you know, just basically taking care of what I got to take care of. And my family life's better. I'm a better dad and all around, you know what I mean? Like, so I lost a ton of weight and all that stuff. So I definitely feel you on that too. When you mentioned that to me before, but you know.
Yeah, you know, and what, you know, on my journey lately, like I'm approaching 50 next month, you know, and I'm probably healthier than I've been for, you know, years. It's like, yeah, I my problem was when I quit drinking, I replaced it with food, and I wasn't eating healthy and stuff. And, you know, so it's like I had to, you know, because usually when you're drinking or numbing out with something, there's a deeper issue that you need to address. And I've done a lot of work, you know, and I'm still do work every day, you know, trying to get to roots of things, because I want to be better than I was yesterday, you know. But I got into jujitsu recently too, and so it's like,
and that's funny.
It has helped so much with, you know, my you know, my health, dropping weight. And, you know, after COVID came through, I had, right before I had a minor heart attack, and that was a wake-up call. So I had to have a stent put in. And then at the end of 2020, I had COVID and I was in the hospital for a few days. And I was just dude, I gotta watch the eating thing, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
And that could be a whole nother story, you know, what they're putting in our food, you know.
Oh God.
It's not even food anymore.
Well, I mean, look at, not to get crazy with this, but my son has seizures sometimes, and he was perfectly healthy. Nothing was wrong with him at all. And I've been seeing more and more, not, you know, after I started looking into it, I started asking around, and like so many, like back in the day, you would see maybe 1-2 kids with epilepsy here and there, or autism. You don't really hear much about it. Now, like, half of the kids have issues, like, and you got to wonder, it's got to be from the food, the food that they're putting in the food, and whatever else, you know,
all the stuff that they didn't have to get growing up before, but now it's like you can't go to school unless you have, you know,
exactly,
these things checked off, you know, I can't say what it is, or else, you know, this will be taken off of YouTube, you know.
Yeah. But I mean, who knows if that's it or not? But the thing is something's causing this stuff, because it's not just a coincidence that, like, literally it's ramped up to the point where like it used to be like, you know, 1 out of, like, you know, whatever, 100 kids had, or 50 kids had an issue. Now it's literally like every time I talk to somebody, like, oh yeah, my daughter, my niece, my daughter, my son, like, someone has an issue, whether it's autism, OCD, ADD, you know, epilepsy, seizures, or whatever the hell it may be. It's like these kids are having all these issues. It's like, what is going on? You know? So
and you know, it's not wrong to ask questions, all of a sudden, but then you're labeled. Then they throw labels at you. You know, like going back to the word games to shut you up.
Exactly.
You know.
So the funny you mentioned in jiu-jitsu, my singer Esteban, who's actually is a I think either a brown belt or a black belt. He's a trainer, and he does jiu-jitsu all the time. And I started taking martial arts, and I started, you know, really helped me after I stopped drinking, was yoga as a drummer. the best thing I ever did for my body, man. Yoga, oh my God, peace of mind and your body just feels so good. And I started eating a lot healthier. When I replaced a lot, when I used to love red wine. I'm Italian, you know, I was born in Rome. And I used to love red wine, but to the point where I was drinking I was like Bacchus, the god of wine. I was drinking like a gallon a day. Ridiculous. And so, and think about the calories with that, and then just the extra, you know, just craziness. I would have, you know, regurgitation from the wine and everything. Just,
the acid reflux or whatever.
Yeah. So I actually now I replace it, and it's amazing. I replace it with, you're talking about replacing things with food and stuff. You know, there is healthy options. I replace it now, and I even put it in a wine glass to pretend, with grape kombucha, which is like this healthy gut stuff, like fermented. Yeah. And it tastes it's like wine without alcohol. It's literally like just fizzy grape tasting amazingness that I just drink all the time, and it's good for your gut. And gut health is huge, bro.
Yeah, that's the other thing too. Like, you know, it's like how important our gut health is, because it's like,
oh God, I learned that the hard way.
You know,
I learned that. The hard way.
Too. Me
I
too.
I had issues. I had GERD. I had what do they call that? A Barrett's esophagus. I had what do they call it when you have a hole in the lining? What do they call
like a hernia or something? Or
no, not a hernia. Oh God, ulcer.
Yeah.
All that stuff. I had it all, and now since I stopped drinking and I stopped the pills that they prescribed me, it is all healed. I don't have any issues. I have no GERD anymore, nothing. And I eat what I want.
Yeah. I wish I could eat what I want, but it took me a while. Like, I've been training for a couple of years now, and I'm busting my ass and I start losing weight, but then I was still eating the same. And it was just like, finally, I'm just like, I'm tired of being sore and sick and tired. And, so I started, doing my meals throughout the week, and
you don't have to diet. You just have to change your diet. You know what I mean? I don't mean, but you don't have to diet like where you hold back foods and you don't do this and you don't do that and you're always starving. It's just a change of lifestyle. That's what I did. I didn't diet.
Yeah.
I stopped beef, but I eat chicken and fish. I don't eat pork. I eat chicken and fish. I stopped eating past like 8 o'clock, at night. And instead of I don't drink soda, I just drink, seltzer. I don't put sugar in my coffee. I'll either drink it with no sugar and just a little bit of cream, or I'll use like Truvia, like one or two Truvias. There's things that you could do that aren't you can still eat. Like, the only thing I don't do much is I try to stay away from fried foods, because the fried stuff was what was getting me that GERD stuff. So those are one of the things that, and the things that, as you get older, that's, your body changes. Is, you might be able to eat like a fried seafood platter at, age 18 and not care. But, now I do it now, and all night I'm burping up grease,
And that's the thing I've learned to do too, is and martial arts and jiu-jitsu and stuff has helped with that, is just listening to my body now, slowing down and listening to my body.
Yoga,
it's just like, and it's just like, I take, and so I would know the things that would set me off. Okay, I ate this, and maybe for that quick dopamine rush or whatever, it was like a quick drug, like to eat that brownie or something. But then, my knees are inflamed and everything started, and I'm like, all right, is it really worth that? No, I got to start listening. And the food was making me, sick as fuck, which I guess would be a good segue into your upcoming European tour.
But there are ways to eat things like that without, like, for example, I love pancakes, but they're not good. So what I do is I get the almond pancake mix. So it's made with almond flour.
Yeah, and I'll throw some protein powder in there too,
Yeah, or flax, and instead of oil, you put applesauce. Instead of instead of oil, you put applesauce, some eggs. Like, you can make healthy, tasty things that that still give you the craving, but without all the crap that you get from like the normal stuff. I
like,
eliminated fast food's been gone for over 2 decades now. So
yeah, mine, I eliminated that like this past year, but the one thing that I still get cravings for is pizza, but I'm learning.
I eat pizza. I can't
gluten-free kind and all that stuff out there now.
I don't even do that. I just do it once a week. My Friday night, and when I'm home, if I'm not touring, Friday night, because New Haven has amazing pizza, I get my pizza Friday night, and then that's it. You know what I mean? I will do it every day. I love pizza. I'm Italian. I eat pizza and pasta. I'm not going to give it up. But that you got to make sure that it depends on what you eat, how you eat, and the amount you eat. That's basically all it is, really.
Well, one thing I realized too, and I didn't pick up on it because I was young and dumb, and that's when my drinking really got carried away. But when I was on active duty in the Navy, I remember going to Italy. I think we pulled into Naples, and then we got to do tours of Rome and stuff like that. But anyway, I'm a young 19-year-old there, checking out, and I'm like, man, I'm going to go get a pizza. And I was just like, what is this? When they brought me a real pizza that they made fresh with fresh
personal
vegetables
size
and stuff like that. I'm like, this ain't Pizza Hut, but it was actually it was good for me. It was like a fresh.
Yeah, it's actually really good for you. The olive oil and it's personal size pizza. Yeah, it's amazing. The street pie down there is amazing too. They fold it over and cut it in half. It's like a square.
Nice.
It's really good. But yeah, so the Sick as Fuck tour is our debut European run for Dead by Wednesday. I've toured with different bands of my Sabbath. I have a Black Sabbath tribute band called Earth that does really well. We headline in Europe all the time. And then I also was a tech for Flotsam and Jetsam, and I toured out in Europe with those guys. But this is the first time that Dead by Wednesday has ever gone to Europe to tour and play. So we're excited. We're going to go out there and promote the new album, Capital Conspiracy, and we're going to do a bunch of different countries. And we got from April 1st to April 18th, we're doing our first debut European tour. So yeah, we're excited about that. That's what's coming up next for Dead by Wednesday.
Nice. And I wanted to ask you too, because you mentioned your son, but I was reading that he played a role in contribution to your Mars in Exile music video.
Oh yeah, I mean Orion has been very influential in a lot of different things for me in my life ever since he was born. Just from the name Orion alone, being Metallica's song and just everything about him. But he actually came up with the title "Here Comes the Dead" for one of our songs. And I loved it. And I took the title, gave it to Esteban, and he wrote a whole song around the title. So that was his contribution then. And then he's a huge Lego. I call him a Lego master because he was, 6, 7, 8 years old doing, Legos that were 18 plus, and that would take normally, I couldn't even do it myself, but normal people would take like a week, and he would do it in like 4 hours. Nice. Read the book and everything. Amazing, So he had an idea. He's like, dude, we should do a Lego video for you guys. And he started creating, these Lego characters from like different pieces that he had to make it look like us. So he would take like, a black guy for the bass player and try to, make him look like him. And then he would take like a tan guy for the singer. And he's like, oh, he has a mohawk in this picture. I could probably do that. And then he would order certain things to try to make certain people look a certain way. And, I used to have a mohawk. So I still have a dready mohawk, but I used to have a big one. And, so he made like characters out of like these Lego pieces, and he made a whole stage setup and everything. And he started shooting it, and he realized how much work it was going to be to actually do what we ended up doing, which was stop motion. And he was like, I'm great at Legos, and I'm decent at editing, but I can't do what is required to do this video. So he basically was the springboard for the characters, for the concept, for basically even some of the raw footage in the video. But we handed it off to once we posted a picture of what Orion was doing, a bunch of people were like, man, that would be an amazing video idea. And this one guy, Sal, who's a buddy of mine, reached out to me and was like, hey, man, I think I could pull this off. It's a great idea. What do you think? And I was like, okay, well, I'll give you a shot. So he went and he found another guy that he works with who works in like real movies. And he's like, could you help me? And the guy's like, hell yeah. And they sat down and they, storyboarded it with some of our ideas and Orion's ideas. And it was the best thing that ever, I mean, it's one of the best videos I've ever, and not just because it's ours. I mean, it's just really amazing. Like I saw it and I was like, wow, this is like a Lego movie. And like, it's crazy,
incredible.
Incredible.
That was awesome. Have you taken him to any of the Legolands or whatever?
Yeah, he's been to Legoland in New York, and I think some other place with his mom too. But he's really into it. He loves it.
That's awesome. And
very creative little cat, and he writes stuff, and he's just really creative.
That's great. So then, what other plans you guys got going forward for 2023?
Well, we have, like I said, we have the European tour. We're already in the process of doing some follow-up recordings. We have a bunch of like B-side stuff that we didn't put on the album, kind of like Garage Days, like leftover tracks that we want to try to make something. We want to put together a cool little. There's a couple covers and a couple of was one song with Chris Poland. We want to basically take like the leftover like cool stuff and kind of like recreate what was there and build on it and have like a follow-up EP to our album, just to have some new tunes to put out. And then also we're planning on doing another, like I was saying earlier, the guy who just helped me with the Lego video, he is in the middle of doing a documentary on combat veterans. And so we're going to incorporate the movie and one of the songs off the album. And he's going to shoot another video for us, more serious, more filmy. And it's going to be about, veterans and some of the issues that they have and talking about PTSD and it's going to be a music video though, and it's going to be incorporated with this film that he's putting together. And Esteban's going to be in the film. It's almost done. The film's shot and done. And he's an amazing dude who's doing this film. And so we're going to do like a serious video for that. So that's going to be coming out as well. And then I have a bunch of other projects that I'm working on where I have the label Mindsnap Music. And it's going really well. And I'm putting out, I have a bunch of stuff that I'm putting out this year, helping out some friends. I got a buddy of mine from my old band, the singer Chris Keys. He's in a new band called ESP, Engineered Society Project from Texas. It's kind of like in that Painkiller Judas Priest era style. And putting those guys out. It was actually a project that was started with Tim Ripper Owens. And then Chris, my old singer, took over the position. And the album's great. I'm putting that out for them on Mindsnap Music. I'm putting out a really good buddy of mine who is a super shredder who used to play in Dead by Wednesday, but he's played with everyone from Dark Tranquility to Sanctuary to Jasta from Hatebreed, even filled in for Arch Enemy. My buddy Joey Concepcion, he played on Darkest of Angels from Dead by Wednesday's guest vocal album. He has a solo album coming out, and I'm putting that album out on Mindsnap, and I'm also doing a buddy of mine who was our old producer in Gargantua Soul. He's putting out a couple of songs for St. Patty's Day. This guy Joe Town, another great rock and roll artist. Then I have another project that I'm kind of throwing together for fun that I'm putting out on Mindsnap called Revamped, and it's a bunch of 70s and 80s new wave and like weird songs that are revamped into metal. And it's me and Joey Concepcion who's doing that ourselves, just recording everything ourselves, drums, vocals, guitar, bass, all of it, and just kind of putting out the stuff for fun. And we're licensing all these covers. We did some like really weird covers like Metro from Berlin. We did Missing Persons Words. We did
Nice.
Electric Avenue by Eddie Grant. We did.
Oh, yeah.
There's so many crazy songs that we redid to metal, like really crazy heavy metal, and that's coming out on my Snap. So I have so much. And then I got a bunch of Earth shows that I'm doing. My Sabbath tribute. I got tons of shows booked with that as well, and that helps pay the bills. I mean, nowadays there is no more. I talk about a lot about this in the book. There's a lot of people think, oh, you must be loaded or whatever. It's like, dude, the days of playing in one band like a Metallica or Led Zeppelin or Black Sabbath and making a living are gone. Even the big cats that you think are making a killing, like bands like Cannibal Corpse and like these metal bands they have day jobs. And so unless you learn how to hustle and like everything, at least I can say that everything I do to make a living is in entertainment. It might not be just one band, but like I have the record label. I host trivia sometimes for a company called Bar Rated Trivia. Like once a week when I'm home, I do a trivia night at the local bar. Sometimes I fill in for other people. I host trivia. I've been all over reality TV or background where I make money doing that. I book bands. I book shows. I make money off that. I play in a Sabbath tribute band. I make money off that. I have Dead by Wednesday. That's probably the least money maker. It's more of my heart, more of my art. And then I'm a fill-in guy. Like I play with David Ellefson. I play with Bumblefoot from formerly Guns N' Roses. I jammed with Run DMC, Daryl from Run DMC. I played with John Bush. I played with Frankie Bello from Anthrax. I mean, nice. Something to be said about a hired gun. So, so I basically have like all these different outlets and plethora of things that I do within the umbrella of the entertainment business to make a living. And a true hustler has to do that nowadays. You have to wear many hats and be able to do that to make a living. Otherwise, it's not gonna work, and you're gonna be depressed and bummed out, and you're gonna be like, why can't I do this? Because it ain't gonna happen unless you are a 14-year-old good-looking pop star who's being molded by an industry and given an allowance because they're gonna own you. It just doesn't happen anymore.
Or you're going to be making money either, though.
No, exactly. I mean, and it's really a different time, and things have changed, and you have to either change with the times or you fall and you fail. So I learned how to hustle. I put the book out. Now I'm an author also. So all these little, a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit here, a little bit there, and now I'm making an honest living. Otherwise. Forget it,
Yeah, exactly. But it's all about the hustle, man. And that's why I try and tell my kids today, it's just like no matter what you get into, you gotta hustle. You gotta networking is huge,
Yeah, huge. That's a quote on my book.
You don't know who's in in the room with you. So it's like always trying to make a good impression,
Exactly.
Wherever you're at, Well, we've been going for like an hour now. I wanted to ask you some of the questions I normally ask guests that I have on. And these are usually some hard ones for musicians, but who are your top 3 musical artists?
Black Sabbath, and Black Sabbath.
Nice.
No, I'm just kidding. Black Sabbath is probably number 1. And the only reason why I tell people this all the time is because without them, there probably wouldn't be Van Halen, Metallica, all these bands that came out after them, because they're sort of, to me, Black Sabbath was like, even though there's probably people before them that were doing sort of the heavy metal, but we just didn't know about them, they brought it to the forefront. So for me, they're like the godfathers of heavy metal. They created it. And without them, there wouldn't be all these other offshoot bands that are humongous because of them. So Black Sabbath would be number 1. The other 2, it's hard for me. I would have to say Metallica, but the early stuff, because once they hit black, they lost me, and I've never been able to get back. I've tried. I don't hate them. I understand what they were doing, but they fell off for me, and I just never been able to get back on the train. But they were a huge influence on me. Black Sabbath was a huge, and Ozzy was a huge influence on me. And as far as the third one goes, I don't know. It's really difficult. I would maybe have to say, even though I don't love them, I think because of the drumming, maybe Led Zeppelin, but not even really. The drumming was very influential for me. John Bonham is one of the best drummers. I mean, it's a different question. If you ask a different question, like who are the top drummers, that would be a different answer than the top three artists. For me, definitely Black Sabbath, number one. Metallica probably is top two or three, but then there's so many other. I love so much stuff that it's hard to pick.
It's hard
to third one
to narrow it down. Usually,
I mean, like honestly, the Police. I love the Police.
Yeah,
Stuart Copeland, he's the man. I don't know.
Gotcha. And then
Pantera was pretty big for me back in the day. I loved Pantera. I don't know.
Gotcha.
Black Sabbath.
Nice. And then what class do you feel should be mandatory before graduating high school today?
Class. I would say communications. Yep. And or math, but communications is huge because if you don't know how to talk to people, so many people are so inward because they're just on their phones, they're staring at some people can only talk to people through instant messenger or text. They can't call and they can't talk to people in person. They can't look at someone in the eyes and talk. A lot of generations now, the generation now, they don't want to talk on the phone. They don't want to look at you in the face. What's wrong, dude? Like you have to be able to get in front of a crowd and speak clearly and command an audience. And you have to be able to get your point across, and you have to be able to tell people what's going on and be able to just basically talk. And a lot of times you can't now. It's like everything's just online and this online learning and texting and in instant messenger. It's like, nah, man. Communications was the only class that I got an A+ in school, and I think it's very important, and it's helped me a lot because I'm able to do this, like go on TV, not be afraid of the camera, talk comfortably without being nervous, and look people in the eye and get my point across and tell people what I want and what what's going on, and I think it's important. It's really important.
I agree. Yeah, and I mean, when I first got sober, man, and started having to deal with my insecurities and my self-worth issues and stuff like that without, a crutch to numb with, or without the cans of confidence or whatever, liquid courage.
Yeah.
I became one of those people, where just like, it's easier to text and, instant message and shit. But, since I've been working on myself, part of my therapy is doing this so I can communicate with people again.
That's awesome.
Get me back out there, because it's like, I agree with you. It's such a, it's so important, it's like, and that's now they want to do this whole like
virtual world and all that stuff. Like no one's gonna be social anymore.
Yeah. Well, that's like we were talking about before too, how, it's like, how do you silence people that you don't agree with?
Right.
The cancel culture and all that shit, it's like we can't unite as a people if we can't communicate. And the real communication happens face to face. Looking people in the eye
on the phone, talking. Yeah. Because you can't get emotions from text or or
you can read them the wrong way and light a fire.
Exactly. There's another thing too. Yep.
And then who are three people who've inspired you or you can credit for making you the person you are today?
Oh God. Wow, that's a hard one. I would say inspired me. See, I'm very self-made. I did a lot. I want to credit myself, but I'm one of those guys that I was never handed anything. No one ever handed me everything I've done, I've done through hard work, and I've learned through my mistakes. And I really, there really wasn't too many mentors. There were a couple people like that helped me along the way, like this guy Steve Rogers, not Captain America. Steve Rogers from a band called Mighty Purple. He gave me a bunch of contacts early on in my career that helped me. And when a lot of people were very protective of their circle, he allowed me to kind of hand me the golden keys in a sense. I would say the couple of mentors that I had in music, learning how to like play properly in the studio and record stuff. Jeff Kanata, Vic Steffens from around here, Horizon Music Group. And then David Ellefson, he definitely was an influence for me, playing with him and being in the same circles as him at the time. And him being also sober and me not drinking, and we could relate to a lot of the same things, and being in the same kind of era of music. So maybe him, I guess one of my mentors, another guy named Kai Blackwood. I'm naming more than three, but I guess one of the guys that I grew up with who taught me, I guess Kai, I would have to say Kai Blackwood, because he was a drummer and wanted to be a front man, and he sort of passed the buck and said, you could do this. You got a lot of rhythm, and he kind of inspired me to want to play drums for him so he could be a front man. And that was the singer of one of my first bands locally. And he kind of like, was an older guy, and he sort of was like popular with the ladies, and he kind of like, influenced me to play and be in a band with him and stuff. So yeah, those guys. I mean, there's really, I never had a real dad. I mean, you know what? Okay. I guess my biggest influence and inspiration, even though he couldn't stand that I was playing music, he would always be like, you should be a plumber, or you should be a doctor, like he was my grandfather. My grandfather, very old school Italian. He was the closest thing that you can get to a clean spirit, an angel. And he was the only father figure really that I had. So I would say he was the biggest influence, even though he didn't want me to play music because he thought it was impractical and silly. But he would be my first, I'd say, number one, and then everyone else afterwards. But there's really not. I hate to say it, I credit myself. I mean, I never really had anyone holding my hand. I always just took care. I did everything myself.
Yeah, gotcha. And then this question I love asking. It takes everybody back to childhood. But favorite toy as a child?
Oh God. Oh, I don't even know. The only toy that I remember loving was, you remember those stretchy things that were full of like that really bad gel that if you broke it open and ate it or touched it, it would be really bad for you.
Yeah.
Like Stretch Armstrong. I had a
Armstrong
Hulk,
and that dragon.
but I had a Hulk version of Stretch Armstrong. It was the Green Hulk. They started making like. After that came out, they started making like superhero versions of them. I had a Hulk version of that Stretch Armstrong that I really loved. That's the only thing I can really remember.
Nice.
Yeah.
And
Dark Tower. Remember that game, Dark Tower?
Yeah. Yeah.
I had that. I still have it. Yeah, it's worth like hundreds of dollars. Dark Tower.
Nice.
That was a dope ass game. But that was old. I was older for that one. When I was a kid, I would have to say the Hulk Stretch Armstrong. It wasn't Stretch Armstrong, but the Hulk Stretcher or whatever guy. It was huge.
Yeah. Yeah. Gotcha. Awesome. Well, then, we touched on, the military and stuff earlier, but any message you have for our military members currently serving overseas?
Basically, come home safe. Please take care of yourselves. Your family loves you. We appreciate everything you're doing. Thanks for basically protecting our freedoms here. And, don't believe everything that you're told. That's basically all I can say. And, that's pretty much it. And then if you want to follow me online or the band, obviously, more importantly, you can go to any of our socials and want to watch the Lego video, go to our youtube.com/DBWTV. And the abbreviations for Dead by Wednesday, just DBWTV on YouTube. We have all this, the social media stuff like Facebook and Instagram, Twitter, all that stuff is just Dead by Wednesday, but you have to spell Wednesday right. Everyone always gets that wrong. It's WEDNESDEA. I mean DAEY. Sorry, I even spelled it wrong. Dead by Wednesday. You got to spell it right, but that's all it's under on all the social media sites. So,
and then if they want to pick up the book too, where would you send them?
Go to scoutmedia.com, or you can go to, anything that I have, whether it's music or books or anything, are always available on all streamable and downloadable platforms that are popular, like Spotify, Apple Music, iTunes. Amazon is a huge thing for the book. Amazon. You could even go to Barnes and Noble, barnesandnoble.com, and you could find the book. It's called Break When I'm Dead. Break When I'm Dead is the title, and it's available anywhere, really. As far as the Capital Conspiracy, you can get on all, the typical streamable and downloadable platforms, as well as hard copies at Tower Records. You can order a CD on Tower Records. You can go to saltoftheearthrecords.com, which is another outlet that makes vinyl for us. So yeah, and as far as my own personal stuff, everything that I have on social media is under Opus the Dopest. It's a name that my old singer gave me. It's funny. So OPUS the DOPEST, Opus the Dopest, and then just Dead by Wednesday, except for our YouTube page, which is DBW TV. And that's pretty much all social media, and we have regular websites too, deadbywednesday.com. I don't have one for me personally, but I have, all the other stuff too, social media stuff.
Man. Oh, Opus, man, it was great talking with you, dude.
Yeah, man.
Definitely have to stay connected, because I'd love to get connected with Esteban as well.
Yeah, I'll be happy to hook that up. That'd be great.
Awesome.
You guys should definitely talk.
Yeah, for sure. But man, I appreciate your time. You mind doing one last favor before I let you go?
Not at all. Go ahead.
Kind of promo ID for the show. Just introduce yourself. You're listening to today's Boondoggle.
Boondoggle, right?
Yeah.
Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
What's up? This is Opus the Dopest from Dead by Wednesday, and you're watching today me on Boondoggle.
Nice. It froze up a little bit at the end. You want to do that one more time?
Yeah. Should I say watching today, or just you're watching?
You're watching, or you're listening to either or. Today's
you're listening
Boondoggle.
to today's Boondoggle.
Yeah.
Okay. Ready? What's up? This is Opus the Dopest from Dead by Wednesday, and you're watching today's Boondoggle.
Awesome. That worked out
All right.
perfectly, man. I appreciate that. Man,
You guys,
hey,
thanks, man. What's that?
Yeah, thanks again for your time, man. I really appreciate it.
No problem at all, man. I've been holding the pee for a while, so I'm going to go pee.
All right, man. You go handle that. And yeah, we'll be in touch.
Thanks so much.